what I did then is like really start to see the beauty around here. And I was just like, man, this is like the greatest place to raise kids. It feels so safe. Everything's gorgeous. I love these rivers. I love
The
these hills.
hills. Oh my
I mean, just
gosh.
everything about it. Like I'm obsessed with the Palouse. Like I could just like take pictures of the Palouse all day and it'll be like 400 of the same picture, when you look at it. But it was like, it looked so cool.
Welcome to the Old Spiral Podcast. My name is Brian Grimm, and as always, sitting with me is Drew Evans. Drew, say hi to everybody.
Hello, everyone.
So, I was downtown last week, walking around, and I noticed some paintings that I really liked, and I said, hey, I know who did those. Those are by Jaymee Laws. And so, Jaymee is a great local artist, and we had her in for our first artist spotlight.
Yeah, it was really fun, and it was a cool way to kick off our artist spotlights, and it was just really great to listen to Jaymee talk about her process and what inspires her to do art.
Yes, and you can find her art kind of all over the valley. She was saying that she makes stickers, she makes canvas art, earrings,
magnets,
a whole bunch of stuff that we'll cover in the episode.
Yeah.
But she was saying how much fun it is when she sees a sticker on somebody's car walking around town and is like, hey, I did that. And
yeah.
It's neat talking to a local artist, which is a part of the series we want to keep doing, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think it was a great way to shine light on just art in the valley in general. I guess when I was growing up, and even now, I don't really think about the valley as being synonymous with art, but it turns out we have a lot of really good artists, and I'm learning that all the time.
We do, and we're not just talking about painters, which there are a lot of great painters in the valley, and that's paint, draw. When I say painter, I mean art like you would think of drawing, charcoal, all that stuff, all those mediums, but musicians and writers and all that stuff.
Right.
Documentarians.
That's true.
It's true. This valley is a wealth of good stuff, and speaking of wealth of good stuff that the valley has, let's cover some of the events that are happening this weekend.
Let's do it.
This Friday is Valentine's Day.
How about that?
So what are you going to do on Valentine's Day, Drew? You thought about it yet?
Well, I imagine Rachel and I will go to dinner.
Dinner?
Yes. That should be fun and delicious. And those are my plans.
I like your plans, Drew. Are you going to get her a flower or anything?
Well, I can't say that over the air.
Taking all the surprise out of it?
It might be a surprise what I'm getting her.
Okay, well, Friday, Valentine's Day, what's going down? Turns out quite a lot.
Yeah.
There's another Abundance. Gregory Ray's hosting those at Deja Vu Yoga Studios. And then, 7 p.m. That's what time it's at.
Yep.
Some other stuff that's happening Friday, Spiral Rock. Now, that's a vineyard in Lewiston, and they're on the Spiral Highway, correct?
That is correct.
Well, they're doing a Valentine's Day event starting at 5 o'clock for all you lovebirds that like wine as well. The wine lovebirds out there.
Wine birds.
That's right. And if you want some delicious food, not only is Merriweather's Bistro having Valentine's Day dinner, but at 6:30, Shania Rawlings is going to start playing, and some ambiance. She does some good love songs. It's just going to be an all-around good time.
Cool.
Ooh, this one's for all the chocolate lovers out there. Parejas Cellars in downtown Clarkston's having a Valentine's chocolate / they're bringing out their 2016 Syrah. Ooh, it's been nice and aged for you, breaking it out on Valentine's Day, and you can go and taste some chocolate and have some wine, and that sounds like a great time. And that starts at 3, so you can get out a little earlier. Also this Friday, Valentine's Day, if you like a good rhyme, Ruben Ray is playing Valentine's Day at Parejas Cellars down in Clarkston. And that was a little lame, but I'm keeping it in. Anyway, there's lots of stuff happening on Valentine's Day. Get out there, go have a good time. Drew, what's happening on Saturday the 15th?
Yeah, so the day after, it looks like there's a Valentine's Day after at the Crawl Space in Lewiston, of course, and that starts at 9 p.m. Music by Henry Funk is going to be happening at Parejas Cellars in Clarkston, February 15th at 7. Then it looks like, this one sounds kind of cool. There's an event called These Ladies Rock Tour. That's happening at the Third Wheel in Lewiston. And that's actually both Friday, February 14th and Saturday, February 15th. So go check that out. Also happening Saturday on the 15th is Super Sale 2020 at the Fairgrounds in Lewiston. This sounds pretty cool. I guess it's apparently the region's largest indoor yard sale.
Oh, wow. That's really cool.
Yeah, I'm going to go check that out. That sounds awesome.
Is that on the 15th?
On the 15th.
I bet that's something that we could all do as a group. Caitlin would love that.
That's very true. We'll put it down. Also, wine glass painting at Prayhouse. Prayhouse has a bunch of events.
Man, it's
Shout
a
out to
cool
those
little
guys.
space. They do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's also on the 15th, and that starts at noon. And I think that's it for now.
Well, cool. That was a lot of fun stuff. Like I said, Jaymee Laws came in for our first artist spotlight. I can't wait to keep doing more of these. We'll probably do another one in a few weeks. Drew, what's something you learned about Jaymee today that was fun in our interview?
I felt a connection with her in our mutual love of punk.
Ah,
I
yes.
thought that was cool.
I loved all of her awesome tattoos.
She did have a bevy of great tattoos.
All right. Well, Drew, do you have anything else?
Stick around, listen to the episode. It was a good one.
Yeah, they just put out this album. It's super good. You gotta get it. So I bought it, and on one of the tracks, it was like super obvious that Jim had like taken his whole drumming style from Dave Grohl's, like when he was doing songs for the deaf, for Queens of the Stone Age.
Yeah, yeah.
So he drummed on that album, and especially from No One Knows, because that song had just like really blown up, but it had been out for a while. And I was like, and so I messaged their like band email, and I was like, is it just me, or did you like totally take all your inspiration from this song? And Jim was like, yeah,
That's
super
great.
into the Queens of the Stone Age.
Right.
So we knew each other since 1981. So we started talking, and
So you knew
we
each
ended up
other, but
getting
you hadn't really like interacted much before that?
yeah, we went to elementary school and junior high and high school together.
Where was that?
Well, we met at Webster in 4th grade. We actually got married on the playground of Webster.
I think I
That's
saw
awesome.
that.
Yeah, so we have some really cool wedding photos, but that was Jim's thing. He was like, can we get married at Webster since we met there? And so I was like, yeah, and then we just had this like epic party after. It was like we had open mic for our reception. Because we have so many musician friends.
Oh, yeah.
And we were just like, bring your instruments, except you don't need to bring a drum kit, obviously, and then people just came and they just like jammed and played stuff together. What's cool is that a lot of those guys had played in different bands together, and a ton of them came over from Seattle because Jim had been living there. It was really fun.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, generally, before we start recording, I'll let you know, but I just started recording because that was a great story.
Oh, okay,
so
that's fine, yeah.
It doesn't have to go into the episode because you weren't prepared.
It's fine. I don't care. I mean, I've told that story 100,000 times because I think it's fun.
No, that is fun. That's why I started recording. It's like, oh, this is great. So, yeah, Drew, just so you know, I pushed the R button.
Sweet.
And we are live, actually. But so I just wanted to say real quick, we're here with Jaymee Laws. Yeah, and
Yeah.
you're a local artist.
Yes.
And you brought us some great stickers. I got an awesome holographic sticker of the Blue Bridge. Yeah, that was really cool.
Thank you.
And then Drew, how's it going?
Doing good.
Good. Well, we were really glad to have you in because
Thank you.
we wanted to do an artist spotlight. So I don't know if you've listened to the podcast before. We're pretty new.
I'm like 100, and so I have not. I'm really bad at figuring out podcasts. Like my kids had to like show me where the app was on the phone.
Okay.
Anyway, and so I'm just starting to listen to podcasts. But I will listen to your podcast.
Oh no, it's fine. It's fine.
Because I mean, it's all local stuff.
It's
and
all local stuff.
I'm super into this like region.
We know you are, and it's not only local stuff, but it's like fun, current events, past events, all really cool stuff. Fun people like you coming in.
I'm not fun. That's what I like to tell people. I'm not fun.
Yeah, right. I don't know if I believe you. You've been in here 5 minutes, and I think that's not true.
But that gives you a lot to live up to if everybody thinks you're fun.
All right, we're here with no fun, Jaymee Laws.
That's right. No fun. Not fun.
And so I guess the best way to get started is just kind of tell us a little bit about, obviously you're from here. You went to school at Webster.
Yeah, I was born here in 1972.
Oh, St. Joseph Hospital?
Yeah.
St. Joe's alumni, 1972.
Yes,
See, I was class of 92.
Wow, let's see, I told you I'm like 100. So, so I have at least one child your age.
At least some you don't know
I have
about.
5 kids.
Okay, great.
And yeah, the oldest one is, she's going to be 27 this year.
Wow.
And that's the one that would be right around your age.
Yeah, I just turned 28.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I also have one that's going to be turning 24, one that just turned 21, and one that just turned 18. And then I have an 8-year-old.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So anyway, I was born here, and my whole family's from around this area. Like my grandparents on my mom's side, they're from, like the towns that are out in the middle of nowhere, like headquarters. And I believe.
Yeah.
And so they had like logging, that's the family history there. And so my parents moved when I was 2 to Boise, so my dad could go to BSU.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
What did he do at BSU?
My dad's a plumber.
Oh, okay.
But he's actually became like a plumber, pipe fitter, gas fitter, the whole
works.
He's a kind of a jack of all trades. He's like a
Yeah.
Renaissance man. And he can do anything. He's his own show.
It's nice. Caitlin's dad is a lot like that, and he helped us with the renovations on this house. They're a great person to have around.
We, in my entire life, have never called a repair person.
Nice.
In my family, we just never have. Because either my dad can fix it or my dad knows somebody who can fix it. And so I hear they cost a lot of money, and so it's good not to have to do that. So then Boise, my parents hated Boise a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a lot of bad stuff happened to us in Boise. Like, just, my parents were struggling. My dad was in college, and...
That's a hard time.
Yeah, and I broke my collarbone. I was like 2, and...
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah, so they just had a lot of... I was like super wild. I have ADHD, you can tell how I talk. So I was all over the place and constantly getting hurt. So then my parents, just as soon as my dad graduated, moved back up here. And then I lived here and went to Webster Elementary, and then Jennifer, and then LHS. Graduated early.
Good job.
When I was 17. And then I moved to the Seattle area, and I lived there for about a year. And then I moved to Portland, and I lived there for almost 2 years. And then at that time I had my daughter, Paige.
Okay.
And her dad is an interesting person. And
well, I bet all that time in the Seattle...
So I needed to come home.
Yeah. Well, it's a nice place, too. But I bet all that time in the Seattle and Portland area, were you doing art at that time while you were there?
I have never not done art. Well, actually, so I kind of take that back. I took a break for probably... almost 10 years. So of my 5 children, 2 of them are severely autistic.
Oh.
And my daughter Emma, who will be 24 in May, she was the first one who was diagnosed. So when she was diagnosed with autism, that was like so long ago. It was 22 years ago. So there weren't that many kids who had autism. The internet was like a piece of garbage, So I was like trying to find resources, and I spent all my time just trying to help her, and I was working full-time at the time. So
yeah, you had a lot on your plate.
Yeah, so I stopped doing art, actually, weirdly. And then it had been about 10 years since I had done a painting, and I was just like, I have got to start again. This is seriously missing in my life. And it was almost like therapy for me to start again.
Well, 10 years later, you probably got pretty good at it. I mean, it's
I would have been way better if I had continued to do it.
Kind of being a mom to I'm sure you got it down a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, and at this point, so I don't work outside the home anymore because, I mean, obviously I have 2 kids who, need like 24-hour care and supervision and therapy and all these things, and organizing all that is a full-time job. So that's what I do. And then I paint. That's my like side hustle. But also I try to paint every day because I'm always trying to get better. And also because it's like my Zen time.
Yeah, you definitely need something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. This room is my Zen time.
Yeah, it's cool down here. You know, and it's with Jim and I, it's you know, we kind of try to, you know, I mean, so obviously I'm always in mom mode, so I take over a lot more, and so he's gotten to do his stuff a lot more.
Yeah, that's
but
with the Seven Devils.
Yeah, but this last yeah, so he plays gigs all the time, and then he does like little, you know, other projects. But
Okay.
when it was when I turned 47, I was like, did you watch Seinfeld? You know, the Summer of George. You know, where he's like, it's the Summer of George. You know, it's like all going to be about
Drew's
George.
a big Seinfeld fan.
Yeah. Okay. So you know, and so when I turned 47, I was like, it's the Summer of Jaymee. Like, I'm gonna just focus on my art, and you're gonna have to make room for that.
So did you study art in school or in college, or how did you get started doing art?
Okay, so kind of not really. I asked my mom how early I started doing art because I don't really remember. I have always
it goes
done
back
art.
a long way.
And she said I started painting with watercolors when I was 3. My aunt is a professional artist. My dad is incredibly artistic. He is a great artist. But he doesn't really do art. That's not his thing. My aunt still works as she owns Stevenson Signs in Asotin, so she does lettering mostly. She paints all the windows in town that have Christmas stuff on them at Christmas time.
Oh yeah, those are always really nice.
Yeah, when you see those, yeah, that's my aunt. Like,
that's so cool.
Yeah, and she's, you know, like old, and she's still out there doing it, you know. So she's awesome. She's a badass. And so my parents always just really encouraged that, and I was never interested in like toys or anything. I was only interested in like making stuff. So that's just what I've done. And then when I was in elementary school, they put me in Nova. Yeah, with like Art Nova.
Yeah.
My brother was in Smart Nova, and I was in Art Nova. He always liked to point that out. And so then they like would take me to the college, and you know, I'd work. Do stuff over there, and they wanted me to do different stuff. And then in junior high, I mean, I took art all through, but even when I was in college, like I had learned all the stuff they were teaching basically. And that would become apparent like on my first day. And then they would kind of just let me do like independent study. You know, it's like, okay, just create art and then we'll, you know, kind of critique it.
Right.
Which when I was younger, I was terrible about that.
You didn't like getting critiqued?
No. So Ray Esparson.
Yeah, I know Ray. I took an art class from him.
Yeah. Ray's awesome.
And then we know that his kids too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then also stepkids, Nathaniel Tucker and Simone. So anyway, Ray, I was like 23. I went to college at LCSE. I didn't finish because I got pregnant again. I was quite a fertile young lady. And anyway, but when I did take art classes with him, he just wanted me to do independent study. So I would do these paintings and I would bring them in, and then he would be like, okay, this is what's wrong. And
he's
then
not
I would
afraid to tell you what's wrong.
Oh, God, no. And that's great about him. I love it.
Yeah.
And we
He's
have a great
also
relationship
hilarious.
now. Yeah, and I'd just be super butthurt, you know, just be like, what? No, it's great. And then I look back on that stuff, it's just embarrassing. Like, as an artist, you know, like you hate everything you did before.
Right.
Well, no, that goes for... excuse me. That goes for me with the songs that I've written, or even as we put these episodes up on podcasts. Just my editing skills is getting better, and
you look back
going
and
back and listening to those first things
the
I
first
recorded.
bands I was in. And it's just like, ugh.
Yeah, and you're like,
I don't even like that kind of music anymore.
A CD of myself playing music at age 15 somewhere, and it is bad.
Cringe-tastic, right?
Holy cow!
I actually don't have much of my art that I created before I was like 20 because I would just throw it away.
Yeah.
Right.
I just threw it away all the time.
Well, if you just do it all the time, it's not...
Yeah, and also I would be like, ugh. And, you know, you come across and you're like, ugh, that's embarrassing. You know, you want to just like throw it in the fire. But I think my brother has a painting I did a million years ago. And, you know, I don't know. There's a little bit that didn't end up in the dumpster.
That's
you
good.
know. But,
So what's inspired you to do art over the years? Like what kind of themes or transitions have you come across, and what really makes you feel like I need to paint?
well, okay, so I've always painted women. I started, I mean, it's that sort of like you write what you know, you play what you know, you paint what you know.
Yeah, and you've got a lot of really great body positivity art too.
Yeah,
I
that
really
has
like.
really become my focus in probably the last like 4 years. So I painted when I was younger. I was really into surrealists like Dali, and I've always been super into Frida Kahlo. I mean, I obviously have this Frida Kahlo tattoo.
Yeah, you got some great tattoos.
Thank you. So I painted like really weird stuff, like you would expect, melting rainbow ladies, but it was always women. And then I'm a strong feminist and advocate for women, and then I have 3 daughters, and so I mean, all of that sort of plays in together. And then also just watching the women in my life, like my grandmothers were both really strong and like got through a lot of hard times, and just seeing how they kind of rise above and continue to persevere.
It's nice to have that positive influence.
Yeah, and even when things are hard, they still just keep on going, keeping it together and making do. So just always been really inspired by that. And so as time goes on, when I got back into painting, I decided to paint 100 paintings of women. And that's how I started. Because, I don't like to do anything
What
small.
gave you that idea? Oh, you don't like to do
I
anything
like
small,
to
huh? You
just
go for
really
it?
go for it. Yeah, like I don't half-ass anything. It is like full ass always. And so, so that was like in 2006.
Okay.
And then I put up this big, it was like MySpace days.
How long did it take you?
Okay, so it would have taken me less time, but I cut my hand.
Oh.
I cut the tendon actually on my knuckle by my pinky, and on my right hand, obviously.
How'd you manage that?
So I was throwing away a broken pickle jar.
Oh.
And it popped up, like, it hit the edge of the trash can and just sliced my hand open. Wow. And because it broke in my car.
Yeah.
My daughter loves pickles, my autistic daughter. And so I was like one of those giant pickle jars, and it broke. And so I was just like
Not
out
the
and
pickles.
about. Yeah, and I was like trying to throw it away in like a smaller trash can, cut my hand open, had to drive myself to St. Joe's and watch them stitch it up. But so I couldn't even hold a paintbrush for probably 2 months. It was really hard. But even that said, I did get them all done in a year.
Good.
So was that sort of like the parameters that you set out for yourself?
Yeah, it was like I have to get
1
100 paintings, which is to me now kind of laughable because like I did, oh my gosh, I do 100 paintings in a year easy, and now I'm just trying to crank out more work. And it's not really just like crank it out like it's garbage and I'm trying to just do it really fast, but I'm trying to, I'm really trying to improve. So I have to paint every day.
Well, that's how you get good at anything. It's
Right.
that 10,000 hours thing that you just have to put the time in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, and I see like a million flaws in everything that I do, and
It's funny because no one else probably does.
Right.
But as the artist, you just see or hear or everything.
Well, and my people are like, well, you should do like painting videos, and because those are really big on YouTube.
Sure.
And it's like if I did painting videos, people would just watch me like screw up and then try to fix it. Like that's how I paint. Like I just paint, and it's like, oh wait, that's wrong, and then I have to fix that, and I'm a multimedia artist, so that means I use like a ton of different stuff in one piece. I use
see.
oil pastels, pen pastels, color pencils, markers.
All in one picture.
Acrylics. Yeah, that's what's in one. I mean, every time you look at a piece, it's made of, 6 different mediums. So.
Yeah, and that's one of the questions I had here was, what medium do you use? And then do you ever do
except for oil. I don't use oil.
Oh, okay. And do you ever do anything besides painting? Like do you ever sculpt or get into photography or anything like that?
Some murals. But
I
that's still
have,
painting.
yes. Actually, I do. I've done mosaic work, a lot of that.
Ooh.
I've done stained glass and tile mosaic, and that's the thing I like to do, kind of on the side, and I really enjoy it. But I have done sculpting. I'm not very good at it. Like I feel like Here's what I think. I think that everyone, when people say like, "Oh, I'm not artistic at all. I don't have any. I can't do anything. I don't have an artistic bone in my body." I just think, I just tell them, yeah, you do. You just don't know what it is yet, because there's so many different ways that you can express yourself artistically.
Yeah.
It might be dance, it might be writing, it might be poetry, it might be sculpting, it might be
chainsaw
totally
statues.
exactly. Like, you don't know until you try, and then people just find that thing that just makes their soul sing,
Well,
and they're
even
like, wow,
gardening
this is
can be
it.
considered art.
Absolutely,
and
yeah. Horticulture,
interior decorating, all sorts of stuff.
So I
Just
mean,
comes
I don't
down
think
to emotion, right?
Exactly,
I mean,
yeah.
what you feel and how you can express that visually.
And then if people, and it's like anything, you can't just expect to be fantastic,
No.
right? Did you guys
Gotta put
listen
the
to the
time
game
in.
Grumps?
What is that game?
Do you listen to the game Grumps? Have you? My
No.
kids are really into them. Oh wow, you should listen to them. They're awesome. Anyways, that's but there's one where they're talking to each other, and one of them's like, I didn't, like, basically, I'll clean it up for the basically, like, I didn't come out of my mom playing Mozart, you know what I'm saying? Like, or no, drawing Mozart is what it says. Yeah, like, you don't just start out that way. You have to put the hours in. And so if you just try to draw and you're like, well, I suck at this, I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I've tried to do something and I've been like, well, I suck at that.
I'm
I just
not
gotta
very
keep going.
good at drawing, but
Yeah.
I have a lot of fun doing it. And if I spent more,
Yeah.
I know if I spent more time at it, I could get better.
Yeah.
Sure.
But they're
and
laughable
and
now.
even in that way, like, maybe portraiture isn't the, people always try to do people.
Oh,
and it's like,
people are
maybe
hard.
that's not your skill. Maybe you'd be an amazing abstract artist. Maybe you'd be an amazing surrealist artist, wildlife artist, nature.
Sure.
You don't know.
Yeah. So with all of this time that you've spent honing in your skills and painting and whatnot, I imagine you've probably had a few art shows.
Oh, yeah.
Could you
Yeah.
talk about maybe your first one, and where was that at and when was that?
Oh gosh, I don't really know when the first one. I mean, I don't really know when I first started showing my work. I showed my work all the time. After I started getting back into painting, I had a show in Chicago at the Dank House or Donk House, or however you say it. It's like a German thing. So they contacted me, and the curator did, and then she stole everyone's paintings, so that was cool.
Wow.
Yeah,
I think I saw something on Facebook about that recently.
Oh, no,
right?
no,
Or is
yeah.
that a different
That
thing?
was a different thing
Oh, it
where
just happens.
Yeah, if I farm my paintings out, sometimes I just don't get them back, and so that's
Because you could put them up like if a restaurant wanted or a business
Exactly.
wanted to hang them and sell them. You could hang them and have your price tag on them.
Yeah, I put some art into a like a collective, and they were just like cruising around in Spokane, and I got about half of those back, but at least I got some back. I didn't think I was going to get any back.
That's
Right.
really interesting. I never considered that, like how you kind of, especially when you're talking about the volume that you're talking about, where you're painting every day.
Oh yeah,
It's probably hard to keep track of where everything
it's
is.
super, super hard.
Yeah.
And then I also had there was a Day of the Dead show they do at a place in a gallery in Minneapolis, and they contacted me, and I started putting work in there. Mostly in town. I've done Art Walk like 7 years, I think. Yeah, I think this last year was my 7th year, or maybe it was my 8th year. Anyway.
That's downtown Lewiston's Art Walk, right?
Yes, yeah.
And where are you located when you do that?
I'm almost always at Northwest Media.
Okay.
I love that building, and the people, everybody who works there is super awesome. And they're really great with me, like letting me just sort of do my own thing, and I really appreciate that. And they just like whatever I put up there. So,
That's
I mean,
cool.
as far as I know. And then I always bring my husband, so I come with free music, so that's cool.
Yeah.
So I do that every year, and then I show at least 2 or 3 times a year, or in different capacities, with Art Uncorked downtown. So that's Mindy Van Horn's business, which is just awesome.
And Mindy just won an award.
She did,
I
and
know.
she super, super deserved that,
Yeah, she
because
did.
She's, God, she does so much for the vitality of this community. Yeah, so very well deserved. And I really like showing down there. Mindy and I grew up together. We've been friends since we were 5. We literally lived one block apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, since 1978, I believe, 77. Anyway.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we got some fun
Do you
pictures
want
of
me to
us
bleep
as
that
kids.
date out later?
Nah, it's fine. I actually have no
joking.
problem with how old I am.
That's great. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, because like what, 40 is the new 20 or whatever it is.
Something like
I don't
that.
know.
Plus, it's always good just to like who you are.
Yeah. Plus, I feel like, I mean, my kids are in their 20s and they still feel like babies. So I'm just like, I mean, I feel like it's changed. You know, when I was in my 20s, like I thought I should have all my, you know, stuff together, but I really didn't.
I'm going through that now in a big way.
You know, nobody, I mean, I don't want to swear on here, but.
You
know.
can if you want.
Okay,
It
well,
doesn't
nobody's
matter.
got their shit together. Like, nobody does. And everybody who acts like they're just winging it anyway. You know, so you're just like, wow, that guy's really got it together, but he doesn't have it together.
Right.
Nobody's got it together.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah, well, or just fake it forever.
Right.
You know, like, just keep trying and just be like, yeah, who I am is awesome as a person, and
Yeah,
good enough.
absolutely. Be
That's
grateful
cool.
for what you got.
Oh, always.
So, Brian was telling me about this unboxing video that you were a part of on YouTube.
Oh.
Yeah, what was that all about?
How did that
Oh,
happen?
okay. So that was Emma Naswitz. She's a blogger in New York, and she is she's a body positive blogger. And so yeah, like you were saying earlier, I do a lot of stuff for body positivity. That's super important to me. Like it doesn't matter, you know, who you are, what size you like. We just have had too much. Just too many vibes where everybody's got to be exactly the same.
Yeah, all the TV, magazines, all that stuff.
And I mean,
then
I
how
grew up
we
in the
act.
80s, and that was really bad. You know, I remember, and I've just been weird.
How tall could you
forever.
get your hair?
Oh, my hair was big. It was big, but it was big in a different way
Oh, I
than
see.
other girls because I had like an undercut, which was not, you know, I had like kid and play hair in like the 9th grade, was not a thing that white girls in Idaho were doing. And I just was super weird. I was really into like Sid and Nancy and punk and just anything that was like outrageous. And everybody around me was very into, you know, looking like the Go-Go's or whatever, you know, just being very, very same. And so I took a ton of heat, you know, from people in junior high and high school for just being who I was.
Right.
I remember in 7th grade, I tried to conform for like a hot minute. I tried to be like everybody else, you know, and wear their clothes and have that, you know, and people still thought I was weird. Like, I heard that all the time. Like, you're so weird. And I'd be like, why? What is weird about me? I can't figure it out. But at that time, everybody, you know, had this sort of, I don't know, mold they wanted to fit into. And I just couldn't fit into it. So I was like, you know what? If you think I'm weird, I'm going to next step this bitch. So I totally
Well, I think
went
that really
off the
comes through
yeah.
in your art, if you don't mind me saying. No,
Right.
next step, right?
Yeah.
No, it's really good.
Yeah.
I think people get frustrated when they're painfully normal and you're interesting.
Drew,
You
I'm
know-
sitting right here, bud.
What, you
They
know,
try to contextualize it within their realm of normalcy, and it's like
I feel
you
like
can't
that's-
understand because it's not. You would never be able to imagine being in this realm. Like you're.
I feel like that's really accurate because I sort of went all the way through school thinking that people didn't really like me, and also I just sort of had this like I don't care what
Sure.
you think attitude, and I was you know, kind of a jackass because I was just so brash at the time, but then in my adulthood, a lot of people would come up to me and they'd be like, "Oh, you were so cool," and I'd be like, "What? You thought I was okay?" You know, like I think you didn't think I was very cool back in the day. But
Maybe they thought you were cool and then were a dick about
They
it.
thought you were cool because they were too big of a coward to be themselves.
yeah, I think that's probably.
Yeah.
They're like, "You just didn't care. You would do whatever,"
Yeah.
and I was like, "Well, yeah, that's. I mean,
Yeah, I kind
kids
of
are
went
lame.
through the same thing, and I
Yeah.
was definitely into punk rock, and Black Flag was my
Right.
favorite, and all that stuff. And I still had my
I'm a
friends.
Bad Religion fan, but
Yeah, they're still good.
yeah, everybody got to
But-
love Henry Rollins too, though. You know,
Of
so,
course,
yeah.
yeah. So I definitely understand that. But how did you find stuff like that in the 80s that sort of inspired you to be different?
Yeah, because there was no like internet.
Yeah,
We didn't have the internet.
For me, it was
That's how old I am.
skateboarding, and I would watch
it was
skate
skateboarding.
videos.
It was skateboarding then too. So I had a bunch of friends who were skaters and who were skateboarders, and you know, I was like, I dated some skater guys because you know I thought they were just cool, and and it was all from like
They were cool.
Thrasher magazine
Sure.
and just like hanging out at the half pipe and.
Isn't it weird that that's like pop culture now to see like a kid wearing a
Right.
Thrasher
Oh, I know.
sweatshirt? It's like, dude,
Yeah.
you don't even know what that is.
Right, exactly. And then so they actually they had a little story in the paper back then about some friends of mine that you know they skated all the time. So it was that, and then my mom used to take us to Spokane to buy our you know clothes for school or whatever. My brother would go like straight to like J.C. Penney's and buy like 3 polos and 2 pairs of Levi's, and I would go to like these weird like off the wall thrift stores.
Right, because
Where stuff was cheap back then, and
no
I'd buy,
Hot Topic.
yeah, no, exactly. And so I would buy just like old vintage clothes and stuff I just thought was awesome. And my mom actually was at Book and Game Company, which is the bookstore in the mall. Yeah,
Love that place
So
when
my
I was a
mom was
kid.
there from
Yeah, the place
1981
was
until
great.
pretty much it closed. Yeah, she was a part owner, and. So I got a lot of books. I got a lot of books there. I read books about people who were punk, and then I read a lot of like existential bullshit, like Camus. You know what I'm really into still. And just you know, I was just anything that was like different. If it was weird, I wanted to like read it and consume it. And like you know, I was reading Kerouac and Ginsberg, and you know, just like what is out there. You know, so I got
Those
really
guys
into
are
that kind of
definitely
stuff.
out there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they're rad, like William Burroughs.
No, they
and-
are. Yeah. I was telling Drew that I liked Dharma Bums better than On the Road.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, Kerouac was just a great writer, but
yeah.
you know, just it was pretty edgy. You know.
Oh, very. Yeah,
and
especially
then-
when you're a kid.
And I spent a lot of time in the library,
Yeah.
like you know. Shout out to Mrs. Funk. She was hanging out there too and at LHS. And all my kids like love her. She's so cool. But anyway,
mom
I
does
spent a
her
lot of
hair.
time and they had just put in this computer system that was like not really the internet, but it was like an encyclopedia
Oh, okay.
on the computer, and you could look up anything.
So like the beginnings of Valnet.
Pretty much, yeah. And so but you could look up a subject and then you could like print up all the information about it. And I was in there all the time being like Andy Warhol.
Oh, neat.
So I could just like whatever was, you know, I wanted to learn about. And yeah, so the library was awesome. And just books, and I love music. And I would go to the video shop later in life in my 20s and hang out with Randy and go to Pepperland.
Pepperland.
Bob's the man. I miss that record store super bad. And
It was great.
yeah, I miss the
was
bookstore
great.
and the record store.
Yeah.
So.
I remember going in there as a kid, and I was probably 6th grade or something like that. And we would always skate from my mom's hair salon in Clarkston and go to the Lewiston skate park and then skate back and forth to the Clarkston one. And one time I got up the courage to go into Pepperland, and I was like, I'm going to ask if they have like Iggy and the Stooges records.
Right?
And I was, you know, pretty much a kid at that time. Like I was 12 or something.
Yeah, but that's
and I
what you want
asked
to
him,
ask
and I
about
was
that.
like really shy and looking at the ground. He's like, how do you know about that? I was like, I don't know. I watched skate videos, and I got really embarrassed.
Right?
But
You
they
know-
had some stuff, and I bought it.
That's awesome.
You know, he had those CD shelves in the middle. They're kind of like this bluish
Oh, yeah.
purple. When
Oh, yeah.
I went in there since I was a little kid. I would go hide under them,
Oh, yeah.
and because we would spend a lot of time there, because my dad and him were
Oh,
friends.
yeah, and that-
so I would go under them and like have fun. And it was like
I would go there and just totally lose track of time. Well, mostly talking to Randy or, you know, Vern or whoever was behind the register. You know, Bob and I could talk for, I mean, you start talking about music, you'd be there all day.
Oh yeah,
That's awesome. That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
I'm envious that I didn't get to have more of those experiences. That would have been a cool time.
Yeah, and then like even in Seattle, going to record store. I mean, there was like cool record stores, and and then when I lived in Portland, I used to go to like Millennium Music all the time, and just check out, you know, the vinyl. I mean, like I could go in any old record store and just smell records all day.
Yeah.
They smell so awesome. Like
They
old
really
records
do.
and old books have that smell that just gets me high. I love it.
Even new records have a cool smell.
Yeah,
that's true.
They're just
vinyl, I
not
guess.
quite the same. But
No.
I mean, but the vinyl quality is so awesome. Like I got Jim got me Coltrane's Blue Train on that like super heavy vinyl. You know, that
Lady Jane.
record's like enormous. And it sounds great. It looks cool. You know, it's gonna hold up. But you know, so I think there's a good thing about new vinyl and old vinyl.
So,
Definitely.
so back to that unboxing thing.
Oh yeah. So
Oh, hey.
you know, so I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I do have ADHD, and that's legit.
I
that's
just
like
totally
not.
forgot all about it.
And I
No,
will
this is-
just go
this
off on
is
a
good.
tangent.
Tangents are
I'll completely
fine.
forget what I was talking
That's
about.
totally fine.
Okay, so let me explain.
Bring us back home.
I sent a. I'm just trying to like. You know, when I said it was the summer of Jaymee, so
Yeah.
I'm trying to. When I was 47, when I turned 47, I thought, you know, I really want to try to expand my art outside this valley. I'm doing fine in the valley. Like, people know who I am for the most part, you know, and I can get my art out there. But during the last so many years, people would contact me about like, hey, I got this thing in Seattle, or I got this thing. And I would just turn it all down. I said, you know, hey, I can't right now. I can't have a big online presence. I can't do this thing or that thing. Because of my kids, you know, because my daughter really required a lot of care. And then also my son Ezra was diagnosed with autism as well. So I was just really busy doing that, and I turned everything down. But now, like, they have great therapists. Things are going really well. I have more time, and I can trust the people who work with them. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna actually make an effort. I kind of feel like an old dog trying to learn new tricks, because I'm on Instagram, and like I go on these profiles, and these people have these amazing works of art, you know, and it'll be like, you know, so and so 21 self-taught, you know, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm old enough to be your mom. But so anyways, I decided to maybe send some of my stuff, because I make, you know, like 1 billion stickers with my art and other products. And I thought, well, I'm going to send some of this out to some people. And, you know, you kind of have to choose middle of the road people that are accessible. Like, if people
Right.
are like too popular and they have like 1 million followers, they're not going to look at your messages.
Right. Their inbox is full.
Right,
anyway.
right. But if they have like
You mean Joe Rogan's not going to respond to my email?
God, Joe. But if they have like maybe 100,000, they might look at it, you know?
Right.
So I just sort of, you know, shot it out there. And I follow this gal. She's pretty cool. She was listed as one of 2019's like, you know, influencers that we are into or whatever, like a BuzzFeed thing. And then she's been on Good Morning America, and she's, you know, did a couple things. So I had been following her, and I asked her if I could send her a box full of stuff, and she said yeah. And so I just got it all together and sent it off, and she just freaked out. She was super pumped about all of it.
Yeah, I watched, I don't know if I watched the whole thing, but I watched a good chunk of it. She liked it a lot.
Yeah. My favorite part of it is I make these magnets that are on ceramic tiles. So they're like 2-inch ceramic tiles. And then I like embed my images in resin on the top of them. And then, so I do it all by hand. But anyway, she's like, these magnets are so cool. They're like really hard. What is this? It's like cement. And I'm just like,
I heard
girl,
that.
that's a tile.
Yeah.
Like,
I caught that. That was funny.
yeah. So.
What all do you make? So you said you make stickers, obviously,
Oh.
of paintings, tile.
Okay, so
magnets.
I make magnets, stickers, like I make necklaces and bracelets and earrings, and most of that stuff is resin. So I like get the images. I have almost everything printed locally at Printcraft. Shout out to Printcraft.
Nice.
The ladies down there are awesome, and there's a guy too. He's cool too. And but I work with the ladies, Kim and Beth mostly. Anyway, so I have them print stuff. I do all my own like graphic design or like sizing or editing it, and then I send it to them. They print stuff for me, and then like I punch it out with a tiny punch and like put it inside the thing, and then pour resin in it and bake it. I mean, I make all that stuff by hand, and so that once I learned how to do resin, that like expanded what kind of stuff I can make. And I'm always just trying to think of something cool, you know, like what's a cool thing I could make
Right.
with my art, you
Yeah.
know? Because like I mean, I'm obsessed with stickers since like the 80s. So like this is like my dream come true. Like I've made it as an artist because my
Because you
art's
got
on stickers.
Heck yeah.
I mean, everybody can make stickers, but let's just pretend I'm cool.
Yeah, it's like as
Buttons,
a musician,
I make buttons, yeah.
Buttons.
as a musician, be able to put your music on vinyl. I feel like that's kind of the
Right? It's like
thing
you
with that,
made
too.
it.
Yeah.
When Jim was in the Valley, the last album they put out was the Purple Octopus album. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's they have some right now at Greenfields Glass and Goods, so you should check that out.
Yeah. They
So
sell
that
all sorts
album
of local band
is
stuff.
super cool because it's purple splatter vinyl. So like it is this, and now it's like specialty vinyl is like the coolest thing ever.
Sure.
But yeah, to have a record that you can play and you're like, that's me on the record.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you do the art for the album?
Oh God, no. We weren't together at the time that came
I
out.
see.
Yeah, and plus, I mean, people have asked me to do art projects before, and they'd be like, "Hey, can you do this thing?" And I'll do it. And then I think sometimes they feel like it's too feminine a vibe, but I'm like, bro, that's what I do. Like,
Yeah. How do you ask someone to do something if you don't know at least a little bit about who
Right.
they
Well,
are?
I think the thing is that like sometimes people just think artists can create any kind of art at any time. Like you
Right.
can just like, oh, hey, can you pump out this thing? But if I do something, it's going to have, it's going to be my thing. So
Right.
it's going to have my vibe all over it, which is going to be girly, I guess. Which is funny because I'm not that girly of a person, I'm kind of a power tools and like chipped fingernails kind of girl. But so like right now for February, so this thing I'm really into right now is this draw this in your own style, which is a big thing on Instagram where an artist will put out a painting and then they'll like try to get other people to do the same painting, but their interpretation of it.
Oh, that's kind of neat.
Yeah. So, and it's a big thing and it's a good way for people to like see your art. And for me, it's like a good practice. It makes me use palette colors that I wouldn't normally use or just kind of stretches me artistically. And for February, since Black History Month, I decided to do every Draw This in Your Style challenge as a Black girl. So I take every painting and it doesn't matter who, it starts out as a white girl. When I paint it, it's a Black girl. And so I choose a Black, reference model and I'm trying to get better at doing like diversity in skin tones because white people are easy. They're super easy to paint.
Are they?
Yeah. Like, there's just like not a lot to us, right? We're just kind of pasty and just a little bit of shadow here and there. But like the diversity of skin tones is kind of a trick and something that it's taken me a really long time and I'm trying to get better at it. So I'm probably going to be painting like 30 Black women this month.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Where do you find your reference photos?
Oh, like every single artist, I go on Pinterest.
Oh, okay.
It's funny because if you look through artists on Instagram, you will see like a lot of stuff that you can be like, hey, I think I saw that picture on Pinterest because we all reference the same people. And a lot of times it's like hair models, makeup models, just like photographers putting their portrait photography out. I just look for something that I feel like conveys emotion. I really want all my paintings to be really emotive so that when you look at them, it's not just like empty, but you get some sort of response from it.
Yeah, it's not
hopefully.
just someone staring out of a window or something.
Right.
Yeah.
And then so I took a break from painting girls because I felt like I was getting kind of to where I was painting the same stuff all the time. And that was like 2 or 3 years ago. And I decided to paint all regional stuff.
Oh,
and I did
that's where we
that.
get the Blue Bridge
Yeah,
paintings.
and so I did that for a while. And also, interestingly, so when I moved away from here, I was 17. And I was just like every other teenager. It was just like, God, I hate this place. It sucks. There's nothing cool here.
I might have said that
like, I'm
once.
too awesome for this valley, right? Isn't that every like teenager? And so then, yeah, right. So then I moved back here, somewhat out of necessity, because I had a baby and I needed help, and my parents were, my parents are like the coolest. They love me a ton, and so they're of course just welcomed me back, and I moved back in with a kid, and so what I did then is like really start to see the beauty around here. And I was just like, man, this is like the greatest place to raise kids. It feels so safe. everything's gorgeous. I love these rivers. I love these hills. I mean, just everything about it. Like I'm obsessed with the Palouse. Like I could just like take pictures of the Palouse all day and it'll be like 400 of the same picture, when you look at it, but it was like, it looked so cool.
I had those generic landscapes, whatever, that'll come up on your computer screen. There was one of the Palouse, and I opened up my computer. I'm like, I know that
because
I've been
the
there.
Palouse is so cool looking.
It was cool
it's an ocean of grain, and
literally, it looks like an ocean. It's amazing.
And so, and all the stuff that I have nostalgia for, like I paint the confluence a lot, the view from the top of the hill. It's like when we were kids and we go, we went a lot to the Oregon coast or we go wherever, on vacation and then as we were coming home, my brother and I would be like, who can see it first? Who can see the valley first? And so it's always looking down, from the top of the hill. And I just loved that view. It just is home to me. Like that felt like home. And I've painted it at night with because that view, coming home at night, you just catch those lights.
It's really cool. It reminded me of Starry Night.
Yeah. So it sort of has a Starry Night vibe, and it's just like those, I remember it just like brings me this sort of peace when I see it if I'm coming home at night.
It's a good feeling.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're a kid. Well, for me, I was a kid. You're coming back from a road trip or something. You're like ready to get home, and then you come across and see all those lights.
I made it. I'm here.
Yeah, and your dad says, "Which one's our house?"
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
So, and I did that I released all these paintings of Idaho and Washington and paintings of the Valley. I did that at an art walk, and I wrote a whole thing about it, sort of my love letter to this area, because after being too cool for school as a teenager, I came back and it was really like, wow, this place is awesome.
Isn't that kind of humbling?
It is super humbling,
I've started to realize
it's good.
that as I've
Well,
gotten older.
that's kind of like the whole influence for us starting this podcast.
Yeah.
You're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, wait a minute.
It might be awesome here.
Yeah.
And, I hear a lot of people say things like, oh, there's these closed-minded people or whatever.
Well, sure, the
thing is,
you find
those
people
are
everywhere.
They're everywhere. They're in every town. They're in even in suburban areas, you're going to find the same people. So it's just, life is what you make it. 100%.
Exactly.
We surround ourselves with rad people here. Like, there's so many cool people here. I can't even believe how many cool people there are.
Well, and if something doesn't exist, make it.
Exactly.
Go do it.
Yeah, and one of the things that helps is how this valley is really like getting more culturally inclusive, and we're getting more arts and more music. And I just, every time I see any of that stuff, like public art, even if I don't like the particular piece of public art, I'm pumped that it's more public art. Like even if I'm not like super into your band, I'm super pumped that you're playing. Like, I just love it because we need, I'm all about bringing the arts in.
And I think there are a lot of people in the valley who are really supportive.
There are tons,
even if they aren't an artist themselves. There's a big group of
and I started a fundraiser called Smash the Skate a few years ago.
Oh, did you start that one?
Yeah,
That's
with
rad.
my good friend Gregory Ray.
Yeah. Was Danny Proschel involved in that, or is that after he left?
No, he was partially kind of involved. But my whole goal with it was like, punk rock, hardcore music, that was such a big deal for me when I was a kid, and forming my worldview. Yeah. Like, even if people aren't going to really dig it from around here, I want to share that just because maybe somebody will. And like I said, if it doesn't exist, why not make it happen?
Absolutely.
And at the same time, we wanted to raise money for the skate park, which again was integral.
And it's super. So first of all, I painted two or three skate decks to help raise money for the skate park when they did that.
That's awesome.
And what's awesome to me about where the skate park is located is there's like some land. There's like some. There's some buildings over there. They're like in, industrial or whatever. And there was some land behind it. And a guy that I dated in like junior high, his dad owned some of that land. And he built like the valley's only half pipe back there. It was huge. They built it out of plywood and stuff. It was really cool.
Oh, that's neat.
And so it was like really in like close proximity. It was like behind the marina, I think. Yeah. So, which was Tidyman's at the time.
Right.
So that's how old I am.
Coldest beer on Snake River Ave.
exactly.
I wasn't around at that
I'm
time.
Tidyman's old.
Well, I'm saying they're gonna have to change that now that groundwork is in.
Oh.
They can't,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's they're gonna be throwing heat.
Well,
yeah,
when I was a
Tidyman's,
kid,
crashed and burned, sadly. So.
well, and they moved it or whatever.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, also tying back into the skate park thing in that area, there was an indoor skate park that burned that was in that area as well.
Oh yeah. It's just crazy, and and it was people always just got so hyper about skateboarders, especially in the '80s. They were like, I used to drive this van all over town that had like 7,000 bumper stickers on it. I don't know if you saw it, but it was a lot of people could recognize it. I drove that thing into the ground. Now I'm driving a Subaru, which is 26 years old, so that's cool.
Great. So there's 3 Subarus
That's
in my
right.
driveway.
That's right. Yeah, a little ad for Subaru there.
Yep.
Anyway, and I had the skateboarding is not a crime sticker on there, which that's like throwing it way back, but
Right. Yeah, I had friends whose parents would just straight up not let them. They would not let them skateboard.
You're like, that's a bad
See, I
thing to
skateboarded
skateboard.
all the time, everywhere. It was
Yeah.
fun.
Oh, I did too.
My husband really wants to skateboard now, but I won't let him
I
because we're
found
at
my
1,000. I don't
skateboard.
need him to like break a leg.
And it took me a few tries, but I did land a kickflip and was very proud of myself.
That is impressive.
Yeah.
That is impressive. I just,
My ollie's not bad either.
I mean, I just,
After all these years.
I get a little excited when I see, like, oh, awesome, that kids are still skateboarding.
Yeah.
And, I just like to see that.
Yeah.
I feel like that's like the beginning of your like entrance into this sort of counterculture,
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the coolest ones in my opinion.
Yeah.
So we're talking about sort of our passions. Do you have other things that you're really passionate about outside of art?
Yeah, like everything. I mean, like if there's a thing I'm really passionate about it, I don't. I mean, my family, 100%. Like that's my main focus. I mean, I don't want to get political, but
You can do whatever you want.
But I mean, I think everybody knows I'm a big Bernie supporter. So
Bernie.
it's like
Feel the burn.
Feel the burn.
Yeah, and so
What do you
like,
think about the Iowa caucus?
I think it was a shit show. I think we should only have paper ballots everywhere.
Yeah.
I think paper ballots 1,000% everywhere, and then like that's it. I think we should stop with everything else. No more apps, no more machines,
See,
no
and
more this many people on this side of the room, and that just paper ballots.
I want to adopt the European style where it's 6 months before the election. You all get non-advertised, the same amount of non-advertised airtime for your debates. And that's
it'd be
just
fantastic.
That. I mean, it's not like we can't do it.
Yeah, well, I'd like to see some real changes in the way we do a lot of things politically, but because everything is such a cluster right now, it gives me so much anxiety, literally, that I try not to pay attention to most of it.
And that's the best way to go.
And I just like auto pay my $27 a month
There
and
you go.
just cross my fingers.
Well, we got to keep it local, right? We've got to bring
Right,
everything
exactly.
back
Well, that's
to
what I'm
here.
saying. You're
Exactly.
a Bernie Smith
More of a
supporter
grassroots
and
effort.
an Idaho resident,
Yeah.
So you're in a red state.
Yeah, I
against the
am.
grain.
Yeah, but my family is like old school Democrats, like way back. Like my grandpa was rad, and
Union guy.
no, actually, he worked for Bearings Incorporated,
Neat.
which was So my grandpa was in World War II, and he was hit by a mortar in
Wow.
World War II, and he ended up spending 2 years in the hospital. First of all, he lived, so yay there.
Yeah,
and
that's great.
it took him 2 years to recover. So he was in the hospital in France for a year, and then he came over on, I believe it was the Queen Victoria, could be wrong there. And then he was in the hospital in California for a year. He sat outside and smoked cigarettes with Betty Grable. That's one of my favorite
right.
stories, yeah. Mickey Rooney wrote my grandma a letter about my grandpa and said he was going to be okay. Anyways, then he came back here, and he was 90% disabled. He had like a 2.5-inch lift in one shoe because one leg was shorter than the other. His body was full of shrapnel. He had some paralyzation, and he just worked super hard. And he was like the nicest, coolest dude, and everybody just loved him. And he was a Shriner and a Mason. He worked for Shriners to like raise money because he had a real heart for kids that were disabled, and he wanted to do that. And it gave him a lot of focus. So he was everything. He was like the potentate and the grandmaster, and
Oh, that's so neat.
yeah. He was rad. I have two memorial tattoos to my grandpa because he was awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah. So anyway,
I don't know where Drew went. Oh,
I don't know
man.
either. What else did I like go off on a
I
tangent
can't
and forget
remember. I
about?
was like expecting him because I can't remember how we got here, and I don't know how to get back.
Wait, what were we
I'm
talking
lost.
about? Yeah.
Okay, we were talking about stuff. I don't even know.
Yeah, and I like, I always have to like tell people I can't remember anything. I set so many reminders on my phone and also like write stuff on paper calendars and I write myself notes and I will still forget.
Well, we do announcements on the beginning of the show, just kind of
Yeah.
what's happening the weekend. This will come out next Friday.
Mm-hmm.
About what's happening that weekend, and I played at Riverport last night and forgot to
You
plug
forgot
it.
to
I
say
had to
that.
call them and be like, "Hey, am I playing Friday or Saturday?" Because I meant to put it in my phone, and then
Right.
yeah.
I'm going to be doing a show in at Art Uncorked in March for Women's History Month.
Oh, great!
And so surprise of all surprise, I'll be painting women.
Really?
Yeah.
See, it's Women's History Month. Maybe you should paint. No.
Yeah, right. I actually, okay, so I did some stuff for Pride last year, and I actually painted some men. I painted like 4 guys. So like I painted a couple, I painted a guy by himself, and then I painted a trans man. So I painted, 4 men. And I feel like I can do it. I don't know, I'm just really drawn to painting women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
people are
I
always
can
like,
see
I wish
that.
you paint men. And I'm like,
I wish you would.
yeah, I don't know what to tell you.
That's
There
a-
has to be some motivation in me to do
Yeah.
it.
Well, it's again
Yeah.
like asking somebody to just create something out of nowhere. You don't go ask, Neil Young to play a punk rock song.
Right,
You don't ask your
exactly.
tattoo artist that does traditional tattoos to do like a
Well,
photorealistic tattoo.
I do, and they hate it, but no. Sean Hellman does a lot of my tattoos, and I'm like an advertisement for him, except for, none of the stuff that I have is in his style, because I will just come at him with this like weird stuff, and I'll be like, I want you to do this thing, but like this thing, and he's like, all right, whatever. But he's so skilled, he can totally do it. The last really weird thing I brought to him is I have this tattoo of Pippi Longstocking holding my dog Pickles, and it's in the style of Margaret Keane. So the big eyes, So it's like based on a Margaret Keane painting, but he had to turn the girl into Pippi Longstocking and turn the dog she's holding into my dog Pickles, who's a Yorkie. And he did it. He nailed it. So
That's
Well,
awesome.
I think that's good for him. Makes him grow.
yeah, exactly. Right? I used to work in the restaurant industry as a server, and my chef was Aaron Jollymore, shout out to Aaron there. And he was great, and I always used to like get people to order off the menu. Not on the menu, but like just something like, hey, what are you feeling like,
Yeah.
And then they'd come up with something, and I'd be like, all right, Aaron, what can you do that's sort of this vibe?
Oh
and
my goodness,
he
did he
loved
like
it.
that?
He loved it, yeah.
Nice.
He's super, super creative, and just like anybody else, if you have
that's
to do the
cool.
same thing all the time,
can
you
get
kind
old.
of, you kind of get tired of it.
We were talking about your passions, by the way.
Oh, my passion.
Yeah, you remember
That
now?
is what it
That's
was.
what we were talking about. And then we were talking about your grandpa, who
I have
was
a
apparently
super-
the coolest person ever.
My grandpa was amazing, yeah.
You missed it. It was awesome. He smoked
and
cigarettes with Greta.
With Betty Grable, yeah.
Betty Grable.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
outside the hospital. Anyway, I have a huge passion for people, and for mostly the marginalized or disenfranchised people. So
You already said you were a Democrat.
yeah. So I'm at, let's see, what am I? I'm a bleeding heart liberal, social justice warrior,
Great artist.
snowflake, cuck, whatever.
I'm
all those things.
I want to get a liberal snowflake tattoo. I think that'd be
it'd
hilarious.
great, yeah. I don't give a shit what people call me. I just really care about people. I don't think anybody should be starving. I don't
You
think
don't need
anybody should be
labels
living on the
to
street.
treat people with respect and love.
Right, and
Yeah.
like tons of my family are veterans, and they were in the military, and to the fact that we have any veterans in the world that live on the street is bullshit. Like, that should never happen. I mean, why don't we have low-income housing for veterans? Like, I mean, even if you have, what if you have PTSD, if you have whatever, it doesn't matter. If you are having trouble and you need a place to live, you should not be living on the freaking street, So anyway, that's a huge passion of mine. And also, like, I guess body positivity is one too, where I want everybody, not just women, but everybody to feel good about themselves, men and women and sadly, even children are like insecure about the way they look or how their bodies are
that's
built.
nuts.
They're too tall, they're too short, they're too round, they're too skinny, they're too whatever. And none of that should be happening. So we need to normalize, all different bodies and all different, all different ethnicities too. And like just respecting different religions and, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Absolutely.
I know you sent us a lot of your art that we're going to put up on Facebook and on the YouTube when I get that
like
going.
way too much because I didn't know what to pick.
No, it was perfect.
Yeah.
It was perfect. But so where if someone's listening and they're interested in finding your art, they can find you on Facebook.
Yes, so I'm on Facebook under the Art of Jaymee Laws.
Okay.
It's pretty standard across the internet. I'm on Twitter, Art of Jaymee Laws, I think. And I'm on Instagram under Art of Jaymee Laws.
Art of Jaymee Laws.
You can go to www.artofjameelaws.com and that actually takes you to my Etsy because I tried to build a website and it was a total disaster area. So I just rerouted it to my Etsy page. But
so you can buy the art off Etsy then?
Yeah, I do a lot of business off Etsy. Weirdly, I'm big in Kansas. Yeah, so like I don't know, I send a lot of stuff to Kansas.
Neat.
I do have some friends in Kansas, so I don't know if that is part of that, but I send stuff all over the place. I haven't gone international yet. I'm getting ready to change that so I can send stuff internationally. But right now I send stuff to pretty much almost all 50 states where people are ordering my stickers and my bracelets.
Any places you never heard of or towns or just all the time?
Oh, all the time. Yeah. I got to send, whenever I get to send stuff to a new state, I'm always like, oh, that's kind of cool, and I'm sending it to Georgia or Texas or Florida or wherever, and it's cool to think that, there's a little bit of my art kind of all over the place.
Yeah, that is fun.
Yeah, it's really fun for me if I'm like walking through a parking lot and I just see like one of my Idaho stickers on somebody's car or something, and I'm like, oh, I made that.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Well, what about physical spaces here around the valley? Like you mentioned, the fourth wall. Is there other places? Oh,
no, it's not the fourth wall. It's Art Uncorked.
Art Uncorked,
right. It's okay. It's a long story. Anyway, let's not get into that. But I have stuff at Art Uncorked downtown, a lot of stuff. I have stuff at Born Again Consignment in the Orchards, Crystal Monda's business. I have stuff at Greenfield Glass and Goods. Matt Plemons is a friend of mine. We go way back. And I have stuff at Sherman's True Value, which is such a cool little store. They got all sorts of cool stuff.
They do have a lot of neat stuff in
like
there.
Stuff you don't even think they're gonna like. She just put up a thing the other day. They have like a whole wall of like puzzles. We used to sell puzzles at Book and Game. We had this wall of puzzles, and I haven't seen that in forever, where you can go get like cool jigsaw puzzles, and they have those there. And I have stuff at Vista House at the top of the hill. I had a show up there, and they've got some of my stickers and
very cool
stuff. Yeah. And then I think I'm gonna take some stuff over to Sativa Sisters and have some over there. I don't smoke the marijuana, but I do. Support that. My daughter is in the cannabis industry, so I'm very proud of her, and she's very well educated and.
Yeah. We were discussing earlier that we'd like to have Matt come on the show and talk about sort of his process into legalization, getting his business going, and how that all shook out.
Matt, and then maybe some other people too that could talk about that whole process, because Clarkston held out for a while.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and say that Matt is like really the reason that we have posh stores there, because it was his lawyer that, I'm sure he had to pay a bajillion dollars to, who just kept fighting and fighting and fighting for them to be able to, open those stores. And so he really, he did a lot of work. What's funny is that he helped me put in some fencing at my house. And it was probably a year before before everything got legalized. And I remember him like telling me, about how like they could make oil out of, all this stuff. And then he's like, yeah, and then they're going to legalize it in Washington. And I'm going to have a store. And I was like, no way, dude, that's not going to happen. And he's like, yeah, it's going to happen, and I was like, no, nobody's going to go for that. And then it just happened, and he has just, he's plugging away. That guy must work, 12
now
hours
they've
a
got
day.
the cigar store open next to it.
Yeah, so they have the glass and goods store, and they have the cigar store, and my dad's been smoking cigars for like 25 years, so he's probably their number one customer. He started going over there. And it's awesome. I love to see my friends succeeding with their small businesses. And I have some friends that are just killing it, and I'm super, super proud of all of them.
Awesome. Well, we're just in about a little bit over an hour, and we don't want to take up too much of your time.
Yeah,
so
you're pretty busy.
Yeah, you've got some.
I'm gonna go home and paint, and then I got a birthday party.
There you go.
See what I say.
So we've got just a few more questions that we wanted to ask before we cut out of here.
Be brief.
No.
Yeah, you can elaborate as much as you want.
Yeah, we're in no hurry.
We don't want to take up too much of your time.
So is there anything you want to plug? Any other business? I mean, you've done a great job talking about where we can find everything, but if there's anything else that you're part of you want to give a shout out to, feel free.
I really like Hogan's. I don't know.
Did you see my Hogan's painting?
Oh, whoops. Oh, did you do that?
No.
Or you bought it?
Yeah, that's from Dee Dee Wood, actually.
Oh, Dee Dee. I love Dee Dee.
She gave me my first haircut, actually.
So, did you, I don't know if you saw about my project that I did this last art walk.
No.
Okay, so that was kind of a really cool deal. I decided, I usually paint just women, that I find online, but I decided to paint 12 local women. And so I chose 12 women that I felt just sort of really represented, people who've been through some shit, because like all people have, and then just people who seemed strong to me and exuded this sort of like something you could look up to. So I chose, and I'm gonna have to think of everybody now. My brain's gonna go blank. So I had Megan Pierce from Hogan's, and Tracy Vallandigham, and Caitlin Harris, she's at Ampersand, and Caitlin Cushman, and Megan Chavez Anderson, she owns the Montessori School, and Justine Walters, who is an incredible artist and tattooist, has Looking Glass tattoo, and Dee Dee was one of them.
Okay.
Yeah, and Jamie Martin, and Crystal Monda, and my friend Melinda George. So, did I forget? And Jenny Purrington, and I know I'm probably forgetting somebody because I'm not.
Well, if you remember, just shout it out.
Okay, all right. So anyway, yeah. Oh, I know, and Annie Holt.
Perfect.
Annie fucking Holt.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I did was I worked with Joe Anderson, who has Lucidity Photography, and he was super rad. He donated his time to do this, and we would meet in his studio, just me and the woman I was painting. And Joe sort of had his little clicker, and he was off to the side, and it was completely unposed. And what I did was I just talked to the women, and I asked them stories to tell me about their life. And so each session was a little over an hour, and they would just tell me, and I'd ask them just some basic questions, like, tell me about something that broke your heart, or tell me about something that brings you a lot of joy, or, just different things like that. And these women would tell me their stories, and they just blew my mind. They were, every single one of them, were just, my whole thing is, when you get to know someone's story, it's crazy because you start to see the heartache they've been through, or what has molded them as a person. The stuff you don't see when you just look at somebody.
Well, you can see them almost more clearly as a person and with more understanding once you know about them. So then I used that whole conversation and then I took the candid photos, and they would just look at me and talk to me, and Joe and I would move around the room so we got different angles. And then I used those photos and the conversation to paint sort of who they were in a portrait. So I painted Caitlin Harris. She just happened to have her hands together, looked like in a praying pose at one point. And she told the story about how her mom died of Huntington's chorea. And it was just really hard. And then she went through all sorts of stuff. I mean, that was just, I can't believe all the things she has endured. But she's so bright and cheerful and such a great person. Just, if you just meet her, you're just oh, you're so awesome. You're an artist and a chef. Yeah, someone who can go through something and then still be just a happy person or a good person to be around is
Yeah.
pretty impressive.
So I painted her sort of looking towards this light, like a sun, this glow, and then with this whole storm behind her. So behind her was this storm with like lightning and clouds and darkness, and then she was looking towards the light. Like, she's just, her outlook is still bright, even though she's been through all this stuff. So basically, I just took their whole story and then turned it into, a painting. And so the women, then I had all those paintings up and I covered them up. I didn't show them to anybody till Art Walk. And so as the women came in, I would show them their painting, and then they would, either tell me I got it right or I didn't. I think I nailed it.
I think you got it right. I would
people.
imagine. Yeah.
And they were all really excited. It was a very emotional experience. And then
Sounds like it.
Yeah, and that Art Walk was huge. And so people came through and then I wrote a thing about why I painted what I painted, and it was below every painting, and people would come in and read them and look at the painting and they would cry, and I was like, yes, only because like my whole thing as an artist is to like convey this emotion. Yeah. If I'm not doing that, then I'm really not doing my job. And and then upstairs I had like little stuff for people to buy. Generally, when I do an art show, I try to do, a bunch of paintings or different things where the price point is pretty low. I don't sell my art for a lot. Just never have.
I think it's kind of difficult to in the Valley.
Yeah, but it's not just, I could sell it for more like probably online, but once I do a painting, I'm done with it. Like I'm done with that painting and I need to move on to the next painting. And paintings do me no good at my house. They're nothing. They're just like on a shelf. I've got a bunch of them stacked up. And so I don't want to keep them. And, I have already put myself into them, and then they need to go on to their next life.
Yeah.
And so I want art to be really accessible to people. I would way rather sell a painting for $50 and have somebody be able to purchase it, put it in their house, and then when they see it, it brings them some sort of happiness. And then that painting is doing its job then, so I don't know that I would ever sell my paintings for, you'll see people put stuff on the wall and they're like, that's $500. That puts it out of the reach of so many people.
Yeah. You want to make money because it's worth something.
If we go by like how many hours, I'm making like $2 an hour, but
exactly.
That's not why I'm doing it.
No, you also want to share it and, like you said, have it be accessible because art is important. It's important, especially if you have kids around, to have some art up. It's just all that. It does a lot of good, and so it's good to have it accessible to people. And
I'd rather have something that somebody can afford where they're buying original art instead of something at like Pier 1 or Ross, because that doesn't really, that doesn't mean anything. But if you have some original art on the wall, like that is somebody's like blood, sweat, and tears went into that or whatever, they really, it's part of them, and then it just continues to put that energy out into the world. So.
Yeah.
It's good to support local artists too.
Oh, absolutely. And there are some amazing ones in this valley.
Yeah.
Like really, just like the musicians. We got great musicians. We got great artists.
So who are your favorite artists? Or if you had to name just a couple, or do you have
Frida
a favorite?
Kahlo she's my muse forever. I started getting really into Frida Kahlo when I was like 12 or something. Like I learned about her and her story's so crazy. But also her art is awesome. Gustav Klimt. I'm really into Klimt. Rennie McIntosh, Charles Rennie McIntosh. She's a Mucha. So he's a like an Art Nouveau artist. So really like Art Deco, Art Nouveau, and Surrealism. Those are my three.
Yeah, you mentioned
favorites.
Salvador Dali earlier.
Yeah, I like Dali, not as much. He's not really my guy, but I respect what he did. And it's just hard. There's Botero I really like. Botero did all those like super round people. He's a Spanish artist.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, so I don't know. There's a million. I've spent so much time reading about artists, and I went to Chicago. I've been to Chicago a couple of times, and they have the Art Institute of Chicago there, and that's the one that they go through in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 It was the moment with the
With the
pointillism.
pointillism, yeah, with the big afternoon in the park by Surratt, and that painting is huge and it's super cool. But there's like Degas over there. They've got Van Gogh. They got everything. They got Botticelli, and they had that massive Chagall window. That was it's the blue glass that in the movie they're like getting that reflection of. They had to take that down, I guess, last I heard, because of like earthquake. They didn't want it to, it's not like they don't have the building's not sound enough or something. But yeah, just absorbing that art. I mean, I'm not gonna. There's been more than one time I've stood in front of a painting and just cried, like a Modigliani or a Van Gogh, and just been like, I am this close to this painting that artist, like, their hands were on that.
Right.
And if they're like me, their spits in that, like when you lick your finger and try to fix something, it's like, what's crazy is there's like, and you're like 12 inches away from it. And that's just that history is there. I mean, it just blew my mind. I haven't seen any Frida Kahlo paintings in real life because they haven't been in the States too much, except for the past couple years. And this summer they're going to be in Portland, and I'm going to go see them. Yes, nice. And I will just like bawl like a baby. Probably, I'll just be like, ooh, it'll be a lot.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, I'm overwhelmed just thinking about it. Like that's how into art I am, I guess. I'm just over. I guess
we like talking to people with passion.
It's like if you're going to meet a musician that you're really into, and then you think you're going to be really cool, and you turn into a total idiot. Well, like I met Richie Havens before. Richie Havens was at Woodstock. He's the one who sang that song "Freedom," and yeah. So I was really into Richie Havens, big time, and he played at this Still Guamish Festival of the River with Colin Hay and some other people. And I got to meet him. I got to go up and talk to him. And I was just like, because when I was a kid, I used to watch that Woodstock video over and over again.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, that's awesome. And he's like, yeah, I didn't even know I was going to have to play that song. I just made it up because the Rolling Stones were late or whatever. Or it was The Who, or I don't remember who it was. But anyway, so he was just like, you just think you're going to be able to say way cooler stuff,
And then you just come up and
you're just like, blah, like you.
Well, okay, you can't say the Seven Devils, but who's your favorite band?
Well, I don't know if you noticed this, but
yeah, I did.
Yeah. So I do have the Beatles tattooed on my arm, and I am a huge Beatles fan. They're probably my earliest influence, but they're like I don't know if I could say I have a favorite. I'm a big.
Who are you into right now?
Yeah.
Right now I'm super into Tones and I.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, she's Australian. Yeah, she's super awesome. She has this song Dance Monkey. She's got a really weird voice.
She was on
it appeals to
like
me.
Fallon or Conan or something like that.
Yeah. And of course
check it
Lizzo.
out.
Everybody loves Lizzo, and
I took a DNA test.
Yeah.
Turns out.
Yeah.
100%.
Exactly. She's amazing, and I love everything she does, and she takes a lot of heat for it, and she just stays strong. And I know that she also, she has depression. She talks about that online, and she's really honest about that. I think that's good. I talk online a lot of times about my mental health. I have anxiety, depression, like everybody else in the world, but, and how I deal with that and how it's affected me in different parts of my life. I'm usually pretty real about everything, because I feel like that encourages other people to be real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. And then I guess lastly, do you have any sort of advice for people that want to get into doing art?
Yeah, absolutely. Do it. No, I mean, really, that's how you get into it. You just do it. Yeah. Like, one of the best things to do is to look at art, look at art as much as you possibly can. And, a lot of art is just trying to copy what somebody else is doing, because you're getting influence like that, just like music, where you're like, that chord sounds really awesome, and I'm going to turn it into this other thing. So, you can be inspired by a ton of different artists by absorbing that art, and then just being like, I wonder if I could do a brushstroke kind of like that, or how that would look, and experimenting with just as many different kinds of, of mediums as possible, because I really sort of made up the way that I create art, like the layers that I use, because a lot of times people are like, what is that? You know, they can't quite figure it
Yeah,
out.
you were saying you used all those different mediums.
Yeah, so like when I do a basic painting, I paint on like chipboard. It's like unprocessed, like craft paper, sort of that thick. And I do like, I outline it in ink, and then I do oil pastel, and then I do pan pastel on top of that. Pan pastel is like a hard, well, it's soft actually, but they're like these little, like, they looks like makeup, and you apply it with like a makeup applicator. It's very bizarre. But that medium has like all those mediums like opened up my art in different ways. So like, and they're all in experimentation. You know, it's like, so will this work here? And then sometimes I'll be doing something and I'll be like, okay, if I use watercolor pencil and a marker blender, that makes this work. And it's just from trying it. So, you know, and I need to get way better. Like we all need to get.
We all do,
right?
It's
So,
that's what it's one of those things where you gotta be happy with who you are and proud of how far you've come, but you've always got to strive to get better at the same time. And it's a lot of it's about finding that mix, because a lot of what I found about anxiety and depression is like if you get too caught up in like, oh, I want to get better, that can make you anxious. And if you think about
right. As far as my mental health goes, you know, like I go, you know, to the doctor, obviously, and meds are nice. I like those. They help me out a lot, and really just like mindset and, you know, striving and trying to focus on things that are going to help me out. And also a really important thing that I have found is cutting out the stuff that brings you down. Yeah. Like I don't watch the news because it just makes me super depressed. Yeah. When I was young, like, you know, like 18, 19, like I would just get massively depressed because of the world. You know, it's like what's going on in Africa or what's going on. I mean,
you have to be aware of what you focus on and like, how to tune yourself.
You don't want to ignore the fact that the planet's on fire or whatever, but you also can't just get so. I mean, if you're really an empath, which I am, you just get so absorbed with how other people are suffering that it becomes almost impossible to function. Yeah. So I know what my like real triggers are, and so a lot of times I have to just like remove myself from situations. And the older I get, the more that I'm just really like, this is something I can do in my life. This is something I cannot do in my life. I don't have a problem. You know, it's been very hard for me. I got really burned out a couple years ago because I said yes to pretty much everything. I didn't like to let people down.
That's something I think it's a really important thing to go through is learning how to say no to stuff.
And I really got like clinical burnout. Like I got really sick, and I just was like, I mean, I was in a terrible place, and so I had to like tell people no. I had to learn how to tell people no, and it's still I feel a twinge of like, ugh, you know, every time I have to say I can't do that painting for you.
Well, especially as an artist, you spend so much time trying to want people to have you do stuff.
Right.
It's really hard and weird to turn around and say, oh no, I'm not gonna do that when you spend so much time trying.
It's like, am I creating this art for myself or am I creating for other people? I guess it's a little bit of both. Yeah. And also, like I do. I have done commission portraiture and some commission pieces, but at this point I only do like maybe 2 or 3, and I do them around Christmas, like for gifts. But I don't take them throughout the year. They suck a lot out of me because
I could see that.
I just have to put so much into them, and it's so much of I'm trying to please you. Normally when I'm painting a painting, it's like I'm painting it, and if people like it, I'm going to be super pumped about it. Yeah. And if they don't like it, just please don't tell me. Yeah. That's all I care about.
Oh, man. Cool. Well, Drew, do you have anything else on our list there, or do we exhaust it?
I think it is exhausted. I just want to say thanks. It's been really cool to hear some of your stories and some of the wisdom you've imparted on us about everyday life. And
I don't know that I'm that wise, but...
And it was just a really good time having you on.
Thank you. I had fun.
Yeah, maybe we'll have you back someday.
Okay. I don't know what I'll talk. You know, you can get me off on any topic.
You seem to have a lot to talk about, so it'd be easy, it'd be fun. I don't know. Maybe if something fun comes up in your art or you win some award or something, we'd have you back in.
Yeah, I don't see me winning any awards, but
you never know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again. It was good having you in.
Yeah. Thanks.
That was Jaymee Laws, everybody. That was a great conversation. What do you think, Brian?
Man, I had a whole bunch of fun having her in. She was a bundle of energy. She said she was no fun, so she's no fun Jaymee Laws, but I actually had quite a good time.
Yeah, she had plenty to talk about, and all of which was interesting.
It definitely was, and her art's really good. We're putting this podcast up on YouTube now, or I am maybe. Hopefully I've got around to it by now. And so if you listen to it on YouTube, we'll post some of her paintings up there. We'll have some of her paintings on Facebook. We forgot to ask her to plug herself at the end, but she plugged herself in the middle, and you can find all of her stuff at Art of Jaymee Laws. She's got an Etsy, an Instagram, a Facebook, a Twitter, all those good things. And I highly recommend you go out and find some of her art. She has really cool stuff in the Valley, about the Valley, a lot of women, a lot of beautiful women she paints, and body positivity stuff and all that good stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And it's always important to support our local artists. And I hope we can keep doing these artist profiles. It was kind of a goal of the show as we set out doing this, and it'll be really cool to keep doing them as they come in.
Absolutely. Man, I think that's it for me. I can't wait to do next week's episode. And man, just go about the rest of my day. I want everyone out there listening to have a great day today. I want you to smile at somebody. I want you to pat a small child on the head and give them a thumbs up and say, "Atta kid." You know, that's what I want for all my listeners, just to feel that warmth in their heart and to just spread it around like a disease.
Sweet. I don't think anything else needs to be
Coronavirus
said.
of the heart, Drew.
Okay. I can get on board with that.
All right. Well, everybody have a good week. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, guys.